Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Productivity Mastery. Very excited today to be welcoming a true legend, one of the best in the world in his area. So you're in for a treat. Everybody who's listening right now, I'm here with David Beckett, the author of Pitch to Win, the pitch canvas. Just to give you a bit of numbers, I think it might be a good idea to start from there. My guest today, and let me just Davis, why don't you tell us, instead of me introducing, why don't you tell
Sure.
us a little bit about the journey of becoming one of the best in the world
Mm.
as a pitch coach, and the level of impact you've created in the past many years.
Sure. First, thanks for having me on the show, Stoyan. I'm really happy to be here. And I have coached more than 2,000 startups over the last decade, and more than 30, it's getting close to 35,000 professionals now. And it's all about getting that story straight, telling that story in no time at all. I think startups always have the clock ticking. They have very rarely time to tell their whole story. So that they have to tell it in 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. So startups have very specific moments where they have to tell in a short way. And professionals increasingly, everybody's under time pressure. So we've got to get that story across in no time at all. And that's my job, help them make a plan and make good decisions about what goes in the pitch, what goes out.
And why should anybody listening? We have a lot of business professionals
Mm.
listening. Some of them are startup founders, some of them work for large organizations. Why should everybody care to become better in pitching?
I think it tunes into this macro trend of no time at all. If you think about how most of us are going around in our lives, we're kind of feeling like I'm full. Please don't give me complexity because I can't handle it. And there's a lot of things about the brain that says, please, no complexity, and shuts it out. So as soon as we get a complex story, there's bits of our personality, our brain that put up barriers. And so as soon as you can start telling people the value that you're offering in a very short time, then the person on the other side of the conversation gets a different trigger. The barriers come down and they get a feeling like, okay, this is something that is going to be short and to the point. And so I should pay attention to this. This might be easier to get an opportunity from. So I think pitching is about simplifying that story and tuning into that macro trend in the world. Everybody busy. So let's make it easy for them. Let's give them some ice cream instead of broccoli when it comes to communicating what we're working on.
And your journey, professional journey,
Yes.
went through working for Canon for 16 years.
Yeah.
Why did you decide, I'm going to start being a pitch coach? Give us a little bit of a overview of the story, and
Sure.
you're still here. You're still here. You're still doing a lot of work. So that
Yeah.
means you're
Yeah.
still excited about it.
Oh, very much so. Actually, I've given my workshop more than 1,100 times, and I love it every single time. And so it's a passion of mine to help people shine when they need to. And yeah, my past professional life is with Canon. I worked there for 16 years, which, when I started my professional life, when people talked about working at a company for 16 years, I thought, my goodness, how boring. But I had different roles every couple of years. I worked in the UK, in the Netherlands, in Austria, worked with the Eastern European business there. And so over 16 years, the time flew by, actually. But I was the guy in the suit every day out there. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Canon. I was Mr. Canon. And then my job moved to England, and I was 42. And I thought, okay, I've been working day and night for this company, literally day and night and weekends. Now I need to change my life. I need to take this opportunity to not go to London, take a payoff, and use that time to pivot my life, actually. And I did a few things. I wrote a book about Amsterdam, during which I met my wife. And so that also changed my life. And did a couple of different jobs. And then finally came to the point, okay, I've got to do something that I'm passionate about and that I'm good at. So I looked back, and I was passionate about how presentation influences people's careers and their confidence. And I loved coaching. When I was a manager, I loved coaching people and seeing them grow and shine and move on to the next step. So this was a combination of the two. the luck that I had, you always need that bit of luck that goes with that combination of what you're good at, what you're passionate about. The luck was meeting Patrick DeZeo and the Startup Bootcamp team in Amsterdam, and getting to find out what is a startup and what's a startup pitch. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, this is something I want to be part of. So that's the short version. Yeah, it's been a big
Tell me
pivot
more
away
about
from that corporate life, but it's been quite a fabulous turn in my professional life.
Tell me more about the story. So you met Patrick, Startup Bootcamp. You understand what's a
Yeah.
startup. How did you get the gig?
Yeah, so of course, unfortunately, Patrick passed away a couple of years ago, and he's on my mind pretty much certainly every week and sometimes every day. And in those early days, Patrick was directly involved in the operations of the first couple of programs. It was the second program that was running in Amsterdam, and they had this event called Pitch for Coffee. So they would scout for startups by making an appointment at Hanneke's Boom. That's a cafe near the central station in Amsterdam, and startups could go there and pitch to Patrick and Mark Vesselink, the two of the founders of Startup Bootcamp. And I went along. I had a chat with Mark Vesselink, and I said, I don't want to be a startup. I want to be a mentor on the program. And he was a bit unimpressed. I didn't have that much to offer. But then I got to talk with Patrick, and I'd written a book called 3-Minute Presentation. And I brought that book. I knew that Patrick had just written a book and published one. So I thought, okay, if I bring my book, he knows the struggle that it takes to write one. Maybe we make a connection. And honestly, I think that was the difference. When I gave him my book, I had the feeling like, okay, he's got enough grit to write a book. I know what that's like. Let's give him a shot. So I just pitched myself as a mentor. Then he said, come and do a workshop. If the startups like it, then you can carry on. So that's exactly what happened. And once they liked it, then I started doing, honestly, a lot of free work. In that first program, I was there for about 150 hours, stumbling around, doing random brainstorms and trying to work out what is a startup pitch, but gradually seeing the format. And I had a lot of input from Patrick. I would sit in the meetings with Patrick and the startups every week, not every week, but quite regularly. And we would sit with Google Docs, and Patrick would take a verbal flamethrower, and he would say, this is wrong. You've got to change this. What I need to see is in the first 30 seconds, we want to know who you are, what you're doing, how big is that problem you're solving. I need more. I need to be excited every 30 seconds. I need that pain to feel serious pain. Stick the fork in the thigh, twist it, and all this stuff is in my head every time I'm coaching people. And I got this kind of a masterclass in how to coach people to pitch. But then I brought my own personality, because Patrick was in a hurry. It was like, okay, this is what you need to change. I then would come in and take a more coaching approach and guide people through, okay, this is what Patrick suggested. Here's what we can do. How about taking this approach? What's your way of describing this? And package what Patrick had given them into something that they could work with, and then learned my own style of coaching. So it was a great experience, those first couple of programs. So I learned so much about what a startup pitch is, and then how to coach people to make a great pitch.
And since you mentioned you prepared them to pitch for these 3 minutes, maybe we can start from there. And this is part of your concept as well. 3 minutes, that's kind of a format that's accepted in many conferences, many events, pitching competitions, and so on. What's good to know about 3-minute pitches, and what are some of the biggest mistakes inexperienced founders do when they prepare to pitch?
Sure. So I think the first thing to know is, how much can you tell in 3 minutes? And what's really interesting, I ran a poll on LinkedIn recently. I asked, how many words could you say in 1 minute and remain understandable? People consistently underestimate how many words you could say. And the numbers were way lower than the actual number. So the actual number is 150 words per minute maximum. Now, what's interesting is people underestimate how many words they can tell, but they also underestimate how long it will take them to tell what they want to tell. So there's a bit, they think they need to say less, but they also find that they want to say much more than the time available. So there's a bit of a contradiction there. So I think time pressure is one of the stresses of making a great pitch. So just remove the time pressure. Be clear on how many words you're going to tell. And maybe it's more useful to think of how many sentences. So it's about 25 to 27 short sentences. That's the first thing, about 9 sentences per minute. Now, what that helps with is then you start thinking, okay, well, that's the, let's say, the technical framework. Then what am I going to talk about? Well, I'm definitely going to talk about the pain. That's the number one thing that also, in terms of content that goes wrong in pitches, is talking too much about product and what we build. And what people are interested in is, what are you solving? Why would that be interesting to people other than the people who built this product? So getting the pain clear is really the number one thing for any pitch, especially for a 3-minute pitch. Then I think on top of this, again, I think we overestimate the potential power of a 3-minute pitch. We want people to understand the whole thing. But I think we have to be realistic that the 3-minute pitch, or any pitch, is about starting a conversation. It's the platform for a conversation. But the 3-minute pitch has got to have your best stuff tuned to what they're interested in. And if we tune into what they're interested in, but we bring our best stuff related to that, we have a good chance we're going to connect with those people. And they say, I'm excited, tell me more. So I think getting clear on how much you can tell, being clear on the pain, and not over explaining. These are 3 big things that can help people make a great 3-minute pitch.
I love that, man. I feel like, from my experience, of course, a lot less experience, but again, being in the startup world, listening to many pitches, mm, I feel often inexperienced founders are trying to say too much. They want to say low, and
Yeah,
it's, what a great point here. What is the purpose of the pitch, right? I mean, many founders
yeah,
are actually not clear what's the purpose. I need to prepare a 3-minute pitch. That's amazing. Yeah, but what is that leading to? Do you want to have a meeting? Do you want to
exactly.
get an advisor? Like, what is that leading to? Because
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I come from the world of movie production, and this is
Mm.
kind of like the teaser, man. This is the trailer, right? It's not the
Yeah,
movie.
exactly that.
Um,
Yeah. And I think what you mentioned about what's the objective, my mantras in pitch coaching are audience and objective. So be really clear on who are you pitching to and what do they care about. So as opposed to the old pitch, which is, here's what we do, here's some more of what we do, here's some more of what we do. Would you like to ask any questions? Because we've got some more details about what we do. I think that's really the old style of just inform about the product. What people are looking for is, well, here's the things that I'm struggling with, or here's the things that I'm interested in. What have you got that connects with me? And generally, people are not interested in products specifically or how products work. They're interested in the outcome of products and what you solve with those products. So, audience at first, being clear on what they're interested in. And as you mentioned, objective. Which action would you like these people to take as a result of the pitch? And quite often we forget that people are so busy. You do a 3-minute pitch. Say there's 5 pitches at a network event. You do your 3-minute pitch. You could do an amazing job, fantastic. But if there's no connection afterwards, they will think, "Oh, great pitch! Oh, really excited about this." The next one comes up, and poof, your story is out. It's gone. And as soon as they leave the room, they've got 27 emails to check. So we've got to have something which is looping back to what you've shared. And that would be a first next step in getting things done terms. It's all about first next step. What do you want these people to do as a result of the pitch? Now, you might be thinking, well, we need 300,000 investment, but the first next step is a 1-hour follow-up meeting. So then the objective and the call to action at the end of the pitch is, so if you believe in our vision, come and talk to us. Let's arrange a follow-up meeting, talk about investment opportunities. So I think getting clear on what the first next step might be really helps people to tune, especially the end of the pitch. The audience tends to tune the opening of the pitch, and the objective decides, what are you going to say at the end? So that there's a clear call to action. They know what to do.
mm. And since you mentioned the opening, I actually want to go more
Mhm.
technical.
Mm,
So what are the must components of a 3-minute pitch,
yeah.
and what are maybe the nice to have to add on top of that?
So I would say it goes on people, pain. Sorry, let me say that again. People, pain, progress, and product. And actually, it doesn't have to be in that order, but I would say, especially the pain and the product are clearly two things we need to do. But then we need to tell quite quickly about our progress. Now, progress could be sales or it could be validation, depending on where you're at in the journey. Some companies have got longer development processes. So, if you're in life sciences or something, it's going to take years to get there. So, what stage of development are you at? And who have you validated this business with? But if you're selling, then who are the customers? What traction have you got? What's the growth rate? Is there any kind of indication there's more and more take up of this product? So I think the pain, just a moment, excuse me, the pain is about a huge unsolved problem. That's the first thing. So quantifying that pain, getting it clear what problem you're solving, talking about the product, but keeping it relatively simple. Instead of we've created a parking app with blockchain and Internet of Things and connecting to other platforms with open APIs, we talk about we made a find me a parking space button right in the middle of our app. Something which people can touch. And what's the result? Instead of taking 20 minutes to get a parking space, you get 2. So huge unsolved problem, quantified, a quick description of your solution, and then a quantified result. Then the progress, as I say, validation or sales. And then the team, 1 or 2 things about what's special about this team. Why is this the team to make it happen? So I think those 4 things, pain, product, progress, and people, are a good starting point for a 3-minute pitch. And on top of that, you want to have a really good opening, because that influences how long people listen or how much people listen, and a clear closing, because the last thing you say is the first thing they remember. So, if we finish with a kind of a shrug of the shoulders and, well, that's it, it feels a bit unfinished. So those would be some of the big things to focus on in the 3-minute pitch.
I hope everybody's listening carefully, right? We establish here the way we start. Like, a lot of people start creating a pitch directly from the slides, but listen to David. What did he say? He said, hey, first of all, establish how many sentences can you say in a minute. You have 3 minutes. This is the number of sentences. Okay, we have this structure in place. Good. These are the elements, the components I need to emphasize on to get people interested, investors in this case, or the jury, whoever is listening to you. Okay, cool. How do I open? How do I close? What's the call to action? Good. These are the components. This is the structure. This is the framework.
Yeah.
This is what and by the way, David, where could people, I know you've written a number of books, where could people actually go deeper into this? Which book should they start with?
Sure. So you can find everything on best3minutes.com. So it's best number 3 and minutes. Yeah, 3-minute pitch. It's actually the name that my wife came up with. And so I've got 2 books that are really integral to this process. One which I would call let's say is the textbook. It's the step-by-step, A to Z. That's pitch to win. I think for a lot of people, they're looking for quick improvements. And if you're looking for quick improvements, then there's Blue Moon Pitch, which has got a lot of inspirations. But you could open it up, you'll read 300 words, you'll get some ideas, and you'll be able to implement them straight away. So the goal was that every chapter, you could just take it as an individual and you could do something with it. You could improve your pitch straight away. So there's Pitch to Win if you want to go through a process, and Blue Moon Pitch if you want quick hacks to make your pitch better.
Thank you. Hope everybody, we're going to post these resources also in the podcast notes. So make sure to go check them out if you want to go deeper into the areas that we're discussing today. Let's talk about preparation, David. I know you're big on preparation. And one thing I noticed that I really appreciate about your approach is the personalized approach. Even when you were working on your first coaching gig, you kind of found your own style into preparing for coaching then. And I think when it comes to pitching, people tend to follow gurus or kind of different ways to do it. But from my experience, I don't do many pitches, except I do to clients, right? I don't do pitches in front of investors, but I prepare a lot of speeches and keynotes and workshops, and I I got inspiration from many different speaking coaches, and I tried to
Mm.
be like them, but at the end you find your own kind of a way to do it.
Yes.
I love spreadsheets, for example. Like I'm weird.
Yeah.
My background is movie production. I before I create a even a script for a little video or short film, or I would always break it down into a spreadsheet in terms of,
Nice.
like breaking down the story. How does it open, what is the,
Yeah.
again, the hook, right? Then what's the core message, like if we look into, and I know you're also a TEDx coach, the what's the true
Yes.
line, right? The
Yeah.
and then I start kind of building my speech on spreadsheets.
Yes.
And it's, for example,
Interesting.
I want to say, if you want to be productive, you have to be clear what are your outcomes before your
Yes.
day begins. So that
Yeah.
would be the outcome of this section of my speech. But then, so I'm going to first structure what are the kind of messages I want to convey, and then I'll think about, do I have a good example, do I have a nice visual, like, and I start kind of, it's like the skeleton, right? And you start putting
Mm.
of clothes and colors
Yeah.
and different things to it, and this is my way to do it. I know you're using post-it notes, but I'm just curious if you can share a couple of ways of
Yeah.
how could you construct your pitch or your presentation.
So I think the first thing I would say is whatever works. And different people work in different ways. You're a spreadsheet guy. I'm a post-it guy, and I know that some people are a notebook person, or they're a flip chart person, or whatever. What, however, the one thing that I know is the most difficult one is to be a PowerPoint first person, because our brains don't work like PowerPoint when we're in the creative mode. So PowerPoint's got a pretty bad rap, or whatever slide software, but a bad rep. But I think PowerPoint itself is not the issue. The issue is how people use it. And when we think to ourselves, okay, I'm going to take my whole story and I'm going to take it from my brain, because in my brain, right, it's beginning, middle, and end. It's completely there, and I'm going to put it completely into slide software in one go, and it's going to make complete sense. It's going to be completely logical. This is a really huge ask. We're asking ourselves to do something that is actually really not intuitive. And what I've learned is that when you just go straight into PowerPoint, you lose a lot of time. It wastes a load of time, because you do two things at once. One, what's the story? What do I want to tell? What's the beginning, middle, and end? And secondly, what will the visuals look like? And when you combine those two processes at the same time, it's it's the worst kind of multitasking. You switch between each of the two. You think, okay, what should I say at the beginning? Maybe I say this, maybe I say that. But hang on, should that text be 42 point or 48 point? Should it be left aligned or right aligned? Is that picture of a mountain the right one? Maybe I should Google for a different one. Suddenly your storyline is lost, and you have to then pick it back up. We want to give our brains a chance to work, and we need a couple of things. First, a tool to capture what is in our head. So your tool is Excel. My tool is Post-its. Some people use mind map. I think the most important thing is to get your thoughts out of your head, and then be able to take a look at those thoughts and organize them. The second thing is have an overview. Again, your Excel file is giving you the overview of the story. Instead of flicking through slides, you're seeing in one sheet, okay, this is the beginning, middle, and end. Is this a good flow? And that's what I recommend with Post-its and the pitch canvas is you get your thoughts out of your head. I heard a great phrase from Adam Grant recently. You brainstorm for variety. So you do a wide brainstorm, everything you could think of, everything on the pain, everything on the product, everything about what's unique, or what's your team all about, and so on. And then you filter for quality. Who's the audience? What's the objective? How long have I got? And then you take that broad, wide brainstorm and you pick out the key chapters and the key pieces of information, piece by piece, and then build that storyline. So I think whatever works for people. But the one thing I know is that it will take about 1/3 more time, at least, just going straight into PowerPoint, compared with whatever tool it is, Post-its, Excel, mind mapping. and then organizing your story, and then creating your slides. And that matters because I did research on how much time a typical professional will spend in their working life making presentations, creating presentations. And get this, it's 38 months. It's 650 days of your working life will be used purely creating presentations. Now, this is an average number. If you're in consultancy, product management, marketing, it's probably higher. So, and if you're in a startup, it's probably higher. So, you want to save yourself 200 days. So don't go straight into PowerPoint. Use those, get the thoughts out of your head, Post-its, whatever it is, and then organize your story and then go into slides. This will give you 200 days of your life back.
I love it, man. Like have a space where you can be crazy and creative, and
Yeah.
that's the point of achieving true creativity is when you combine structure with messiness. Like
Yeah,
you can't be messy if you don't have any kind of structure. You need
exactly.
some kind of a components to build everything around. And
Yeah.
since you mentioned also the pitch canvas, where could people find this resource?
Yeah, they can find that at best3minutes.com. And actually, if you just search for the pitch canvas, you'll find it online. But at best3minutes.com, there's a pitch canvas page there, and everybody can get it for free. Actually, it's been downloaded more than 100,000 times. And I'm not exaggerating. I have people from Australia, from New Zealand, from Africa. It's been loaded by more than 70 people in more than 70 countries. It's a real joy to see it get used by so many people. And the goal of the pitch canvas, it's a one pager, just gets you off the ground. If you really starting, you don't have money to hire coaches or take courses. You just have an idea, and the pitch canvas will get you off the ground and get you started with developing your pitch.
David, it's fascinating what you've achieved. You've helped founders attract more than 450 million euro in investment.
Yes.
That's the number that you know of, because there's probably thousands of founders that you can't even think of, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
a lot of results, a lot of coaching sessions.
Mm,
Let's maybe talk a little bit about the next step, right? Like, okay,
yeah.
3-minute pitch. How about the meeting with investors? Now you're asking for money. What should we
Yeah.
know about that?
So I think what tends to happen if a startup gets a meeting with an investor, they think to themselves, hooray, we're past the 3-minute pitch stage. So let's prepare like a 20-minute presentation, and then we'll do 10 minutes Q&A. Then we'll link arms, walk off into the sunset, and they'll invest in us because they'll understand everything, right? But the reality is that it just doesn't go that way. I think what tends to happen, typical situation, is that investors are seeing, so many pitch meetings every day, every week. So we've got to tune into the fact this is extremely important for us, very special for us, but it's just another meeting for them. So if we present for 20 minutes, they're gone. Their brains are somewhere else. Their brains are somewhere else in 5 minutes, 3 minutes even. So we don't, just because we got a 30-minute meeting doesn't mean we prepare 20 minutes presentation. So I've spoken to investors and asked them, what do you want? And what they've told me is that actually they want to have their questions answered. They just want to get questions answered about the things that are on their mind. But if you come to the pitch meeting and you say, hey, we're really happy to be here. So what would you like to know about? I think they'll be surprised that they're expecting you to present. So what I've tested with investors is, would you like it like this? How about if a startup makes a 3 or 4 minute pitch and then they ask you, what would you like to know more about? Would that work? And they've all said, oh, absolutely. So I've also done it for my own startup. We did a series of meetings with investors, and we did exactly that. We'd already sent them some information. Probably they've scanned it, so they know something. They're taking a meeting with you for a reason, so they know something about the business. Then we do a quick 3-minute, again, pain, product, progress, and people. Just those 4 things, not the TAM, SAM, and SOM of the market, the detailed explanation about every single person in the company, not a competitor for all that kind of stuff. we'll leave for the conversation. Just pain, product, progress, people. Then once we've done the 3-minute pitch, we say, well, that's the highlights. And then you ask the magic question. The magic question is, what would you like to know more about? And then you lead them. Would you like to know more about the market? Would you like to know more about our customers? What customers love about it? Would you like to know more about our team or the product? What's on your mind? What would you like to know more about? Now, what that then gives the investor a chance to do is put on the table that thing that's in their head that says no. Because even if they've taken the meeting, they're thinking, this is interesting, but I'm not sure about such and such. And we got to find out, what is it? What's the thing in their head that stops them from saying yes? So as soon as you say, what would you like to know more about? You'll find out. The first thing that's on their mind will be the thing that they think no about. So for example, one meeting, we spoke to one investor and they said, oh, you're using such and such in your product. Tell me about that. So that was a bit more of a product discussion, which then led into competition and our next steps and so on. Another investor didn't ask us a single question about the product in 30 minutes. She immediately jumped into, tell me about your customers. How do they use this product? I'm not sure customers really need it. How long do they need it? Where do you find your customers? What's the next steps with customer acquisition? How much does this cost you? Really focused on customers, market, product usage, not product itself. So what we think is important for the investor may or may not be important. We don't know. So give them the 3-minute pitch at the start, but you have to set the scene. It's good to be clear on what you're going to do. So it could be 3 minutes, could be 4, could be 5. More than 5, I wouldn't do in that meeting. So tell them at the beginning, going to do a 3-minute pitch, and then we'd love to answer your questions. Stick to the 3 minutes, ask the magic question. And what that does is it transitions from pitch to conversation. Best pitch is a conversation. So you get into a more interactive meeting with that format. This really works. And investors tell me that's what they want. Startups tell me it works. I really recommend anybody to do this. It also works for customer meetings. Huh? We tend to want to tell them everything about the product, but let's find out what's on their mind. And then we can respond on the topics that they want to know about.
Yeah, so well said, man. If only founders, when they're pitching, start putting themselves in the shoes of the other person more and think about how many pitches this investor needs to hear per day, per week, per month. And I think the other thing is, especially with tech founders, that is so focused on nailing technically the pitch. And every kind of detail and element. I read this book, there's this 5 elements, right? But you also have to think about, you're constantly being assessed by the other party. Like if you come in, you're well dressed, you are shaved, if you're a guy, you're like, you're proper, right? You smile, you have a nice handshake, you set the tone for the meeting, as you said. Hey, this is you prepared. You show them these guys are prepared, man. If they're prepared now and they're busy, they'll be prepared if we invest in them when they go to meet customers.
Exactly.
So, like all these things, like you're not just pitching, you're pitching with your behavior. If you stick to the 3 minutes, I mean, okay, this guy's going to be on time. He's structured. He's disciplined. He's, so good. So good.
Yeah, if you tell them it's going to be 3 minutes and you take 7, it tells the audience you're not serious about what you say. I mean, when you say it's going to be 3 minutes, it's a commitment. It's a clear commitment. And when you then don't keep to your own very first commitment, it psychologically, it subconsciously tells them these people don't do what they're going to what they say they're going to do, and you're on a negative step. So I think it's all about. I agree with you. You want to go in there with a feeling. I think also founders need to have that feeling of not arrogance, but a bit of confidence. Like, I've got something of value for these people. Yeah, we've got something great for these people. But let's be professional, well organized. We'll go in, we'll start the meeting. Okay, we're going to do a 3-minute pitch, set the scene, and then stick to it. And then, so what would you like to know more about? And they ask, say, about competition. Now, this doesn't get you off the hook of preparation. You need some stuff about competition. But when they say competition, ka-ching, you go to slide 17 and bring up your competition information and walk them through that. And then you'll have a conversation. And if they say, tell us about the market size, ka-ching, slide 22. So just be ready and professional. Now, I think this will save a lot of time. When I talk to founders, the fact is, every startup, every minute counts, every euro counts. They don't have time. So you can save a lot of time in preparation in the ways we've described, a lot of less stress by getting focused on how much can I tell, which key topics am I going to tell, and then being super professional in the meetings. That will get you there quicker. You're much more likely to find an investor who believes in you through that professional behavior. I totally agree. You're pitching your product, yes, but you're pitching everything except the product as well as the product. You're pitching you as people, your professionalism, your attitude, your vision, and then the stuff that you've done to make that vision happen. I think we underestimate sometimes that everything counts. It all comes into the mind of the investor or customers or whoever we're pitching to.
And I'm pretty sure on top of the technical support that you provide, you're also helping founders on the mindset side. And I'm curious if you're aware, what are your thoughts on the concept? I think his name was Oren Klaff, the pitch anything. What is your thoughts on that specifically? And I read the book, and I was listening to some of his podcasts with him. One thing I remembered, and then reflecting on founders I've met, I think is probably relevant for them to think about, is what he's saying is he's shifting the script. Like often, especially early stage founders, they feel like I'm here and the investor is here, and I have to, really, really convince them because I need them, and you're needy, right? But the fact is, it's kind of an equal game, and he's saying, how do we shift the script? So you become the prize. You're the wanted. You're the attractive startup that everybody wants to invest in. Curious what you think about pitch anything, if you're aware with the concept, and
very much so.
And if you can elaborate on.
Yeah. Actually, when I started this journey 10 years ago, it was one of the first things I read. And after that, I made a bit of a conscious decision not to read too much on this topic, because I wanted to develop my own method by really doing my own approach and working with startups, talking to investors. But I loved that Oren Klaff guy, American guy. That I'm terribly English, but this whole, you got to get yourself out of the beta position, you got to be in the alpha position, and I'm like, terribly sorry, I'm English, we don't quite do it like that. But I love all that. I love that extending the boundaries, where you can go. And I found him really inspirational, and I think he tuned into a couple of things about, especially that topic of flipping the script. I agree that sometimes founders feel like they're in this kind of, please give me cash. But what we've got to have a bit of a mindset of is, firstly, we've got to believe that we're creating something fabulous. You've got to believe that even if it isn't fabulous now, you're on that path. We want to pitch, of course, where we're at, but where we could be, where it could be. How big could this thing go? I coach a lot of Dutch startups to pitch in America. And that classic phrase, it's not about where you're coming from, it's about where you're going, is extremely applicable for pitching in America. And I think that's, the Oren Klaff mindset is, we're not talking about where we stand now. We're talking about the future. We're talking about where this thing could be, what an opportunity this could be for you. So I think the first thing is, indeed, don't have that feeling of, I need their money. It's, we need to find out if this opportunity matches with these people's interests. I've got something amazing for them. And if it matches their interests, great, then we can do a deal. So I think that's one thing I do talk with founders about. And also, it's a journey. It's really a journey. You will get no's. You will get people saying no. But it's a golden opportunity. Just ask them something really concrete, like, which 3 things could we change so that you would look at it again, say in 3 to 6 months? And they'll tell you. And, you'll get classic, like, come back when we've got a bit more traction, but then be specific. How much traction would it need to be? How many users? How much revenue? What are you looking for? and try and get a specific thing that they could give you. Or they say, yeah, you're missing a bit in the team. I'd like to see a bit more commercial expertise. Okay, great. Anything else? Try to find out what is it that they're missing. And I've had founders have then gone away. They work very specifically because they want a certain investor bought in, and they work on the feedback. And then after 3-6 months, they go back and say, hey, we had a meeting 3-6 months ago, and you gave us some feedback. We've worked on that feedback. Can we give you an update? Guaranteed the investor will say yes. Absolutely guaranteed. Because investors like people who have got resilience, and that, and also they feel they're, it's feeding their ego a little bit. We did what you told us. Can we give you an update? And guaranteed they will take a meeting. And that has led to funding from some startups. So I think the mentality of no is a disaster, we need to get rid of that. No is an opportunity to find out what could we improve, and then go back with the improvements. Try again. Keep trying. It won't be one investor, one pitch, one success. It will be a lot of investors, a lot of pitches, but you just need one. And then you've got your funding. And that resilience can really help you. The mindset and the resilience to keep going even when you get that no.
Do you advise founders to ask for feedback if they get rejected? And do they do it like naturally? Do they, like, let's say investor says, I'm not interested, don't send me anything. Do you find the founders to request feedback why they invest? Like, do you advise them to do it?
I do, yeah. So if you have a 30-minute meeting, I would recommend that if you're on your own, set a quiet alarm, a buzz on your phone alarm. Or if there's two of you, one of you keep an eye on the time. And then 3 to 4 minutes before the end, or 5 minutes before the end of the meeting, you say, hey, we're having a good conversation here. What should we do as a next step? Shall we arrange a follow-up meeting? Is this something for you? And ask them, it's what I call a T-shaped question. What you don't want is a roundabout with 11 exits, because that's a maybe. A question which can have a maybe answer is no use. You want a yes or a no answer. That's a T-shaped question, left or right. And the no answer can then lead to feedback. But the yes answer, okay, get the meeting booked, close the meeting, stop talking, done. Classic sales strategy is you've got the next step, then finish the conversation as quickly as possible. So what I recommend people to do is in the last 5 minutes, ask that question. What's the next steps? Is this something for you? Shall we arrange a follow-up meeting, perhaps with more people from your team? And if they say no, ask them that concrete question. Which 3 things could we improve so that you would take another look at it? And that's your opportunity to get feedback. Thing is, if we ask for feedback afterwards, if they come back and say no, and we ask for feedback, there's a really good chance that A, they don't have time to give feedback, and B, they won't really remember properly. So they'll give you some vague feedback because they see pitches, might have had 6 pitches in a day. You were in the middle. So we want to try and get it during the meeting if we can. It's confronting. You ask people, is this something for you? Yeah, there's a good chance that they'll say no. The interesting thing, the numbers are, when you go from cold pitch to first meeting to second meeting to investment, there's almost exactly a 92% drop off at each stage. So for example, Peak Capital in Amsterdam, 12,000 pitches, cold pitches, stuff through email, LinkedIn, etc. every year. 1,000 meetings, 80-second meetings, around 6 or 7 investments per year. It's almost exactly 92% each the way through. So there will be times when they say no, but find out why. And then we can do something about it as opposed to, feel terrible about it.
That is so good, man. And I'm sure many of the listeners, no matter if they're founders or they're working in B2B and they're selling to B2B customers, this is such a good, like, 5 minutes before you finish, you ask these kind of questions. Let's put these things straight. And even if the answer is no, and you never actually get to work with this person on the other side, it's so helpful. I remember being when I was a video producer, I was running a video production agency in Denmark, and my partner at the time and I, we decided to do a trip to Hamburg.
Mm.
because it's 3.5 hours away, little trip. Let's set up a few meetings with people. I cold call them on LinkedIn, some agencies, okay, let's see if we can subcontract with some German agency in Hamburg. And intuitively, we kind of did this in a way, like we'll go to the first meeting and we were completely unprepared. Like we asked a lot of questions, but
Mm.
we didn't know what the market in Germany needed.
Mm.
But then we got a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
I'm interested in that and that and that. And then we have 15 minutes before the next meeting. Immediately started talking about the things that this guy's interested
Yeah.
about. And then,
Recycle the feedback. Huh?
yeah, and then we landed the gig at the last meeting of the day, which was because we started accumulating all the feedback and all the ideas. And the
Yeah.
last meeting, we knew what the market there needed. So it was like,
Yeah, I'm a
wow,
big
it's
fan of recycling the feedback. Well, if you keep hearing, "Yeah, this will never work because," and you hear the same thing in 3 different meetings, it's time to put that in the pitch. You might be thinking, "This won't work because," but this is different because what we're doing is such and such. So you can find different ways to recycle that feedback or change the way you package your product or whatever it is. That feedback from customers is so valuable. And for anybody in business, listening carefully, not just going and telling the story, but trying to find out what could be the reasons, what could be the hanging questions in people's minds, and find ways to put the answers into the pitch, and even sometimes hold the mirror up. So you're thinking about, you might be thinking this, but here's our answer to that. Yeah, sounds like you went through a great process getting that feedback and turning it into a deal. That's the goal, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And since we're talking about the clients now, and like
Mm,
maybe we can look into the B2B,
yes.
and what are the specifics there? I mean, you are a coach, you're a consultant, a speaker.
Mm,
I can imagine you do still do many meetings where you have to even do your, having go this background and credibility, still have
sure.
to convince them that you're the right guy for the job. And I do a lot of meetings as a professional speaker,
Mm,
as a consultant, and and I'm learning a lot now, so I'm excited to
mm,
implement some of the ideas. But let's talk about the specifics of having meeting B2B meeting with a client, like let's say with a
yes.
corporation. What is something we need to pay attention to?
So I think the the number one thing is about the pain, but how we bring it. What problem are we solving? So let me take you back to my Canon days. It was a different time. It's quite some decades ago. This is the 2000s and 2010s, and even the 90s. We had suppliers coming in really often, and what they would do is they would spend the first 15 minutes telling us all about how great they were. Here's Jill. She's amazing. Here's the projects we've been doing. We're fantastic. We're wonderful. And I would be sitting there thinking, I'm really busy. What can you do for me? But, we were a polite company. We never actually said that out loud. I think business has changed. I think people really just don't have time for those 15 minutes introductions. So I think the first thing is you want to bring your best stuff as quickly as possible in the meeting. Not too much background. You might need to give a quick summary of what the company's about, but quickly get into what you're solving for them. Now, I think there's an art form to bringing a problem that a customer is experiencing and your solution to it. So let me give you an example. If I say to you, "Hey, Stoyan, you're a coach and you've got a problem," the first reaction is, "What? Who are you to tell me I've got a problem? I'm doing fine, thanks very much. If you've got a problem, we feel defensive. Somebody said to me, "You're a pitch coach, David. You've got a problem." I'd be saying, "I'm doing fine, thank you very much." But if somebody said to me instead, David, pitch coaches today, the things that they're really struggling with are, that's a different dynamic. What you do is you create a triangle. Instead of you've got a problem, that's one to one. But
Mm.
instead, we talk about some separate facts or stories that help people see themselves and then see that you might bring a solution. So, for example, David, uh, pitch coaches today, what they're really struggling, what they're wasting a lot of time on is this, this, and this. And then say, so what we do for those pitch coaches is we help them with such and such and such and such. And the result for them, it takes them about a third less time to do this. They get more productivity out of such and such, and they get 10% more sales because of such and such. So you give them a story of how you've helped other customers. So take that to a different business situation. Supposing you were pitching to, say, a company in the food industry. You could say, Mr. Food Industry, you've got a food hygiene problem. Companies in the food industry are not going to say, yeah, we've got a food hygiene problem. Definitely. That's a sensitive topic, right? And there's lots of problems that customers have that are sensitive topics. If we say you've got a problem, that could translate in their mind, are you telling me I'm doing a bad job? So what we want is to draw that out of them so that they see themselves in the customer or the story that you tell. So, for example, food industry. So, what we see in the food industry is for a lot of companies similar to yourselves, what they're struggling with is such and such. What they're missing out on is this, and they're losing money because they keep getting this kind of problem and it's driving them crazy. So what we've been doing is we help them with this, this, and this. Simple, not a very, very detailed description, but just the basics of what you do, the 3 to 5, 3 is my favorite, power of 3 big things you do. And what they get as a result is such and such and such and such. Now, I can tell you I've got this wrong a while ago, and I won't describe the customer, but I got this wrong. I told a customer recently, yeah, you'll never succeed while you're presenting like this. And they got really fed up. And I thought, what am I doing here? What do I coach people to do? So luckily I got another opportunity, and I went in and made a 3-minute pitch. And told them. So what we found is that companies who have this kind of solution, they are losing business for 3 big reasons. And it's because of this, this, and this. I've been working with those companies for this amount of time. And what we do is we do this and this and this to help them achieve that. And as a result, they're getting more of this, they're improving that, and so let's talk about how we might be able to bring that for you. Now, I think the art form is in telling a story that the customer recognizes themselves in. So let's just give an example. If I told you how I've solved this problem for Tommy Hilfiger, but you're a small company, you say, yeah, fine, that's a big corporate. How are you going to help us? It's not relevant for them. So it's got to be a company that's sort of in their area. So if it's an international multi-location company, I need to talk about how I've done that for an international multi-location company. If it's a smaller company, a startup or a scale-up, I need to talk in terms of how I've helped those kind of companies. But I think this triangle is a really great way to draw customers into your solution. They see themselves, they're less confronted, and they see the results of what you do. Like, well, give me some of that. How could we have that? So that's my number one tip is, first 2 tips, follow that structure through short pitch and conversation, questions. And secondly, bring pains in the way that I've just described. This really works.
I remember once we were invited to pitch. Back in the time, I was a video producer, right? We invited to pitch, and actually, we didn't take so much time to talk about ourselves, maybe 3 minutes. But it was this famous music band from Denmark, and we wanted to show them we have credibility, we've done stuff, right? And then, so we pitched that, and the last part was we did a sample 1 minute. How could their video look like with their song that they wanted to make a video for? The guy started like, wow, this is incredible. It's amazing. And then we got some feedback, and the guy was like, these first few minutes, you almost lost her. It was 3 minutes. And he was like, you almost lost us because you're talking about yourself. It's like, I don't care about you. What can you do for me, man?
What can you do for me? Yeah, exactly that. That's what people want.
And I wonder if you can maybe, because you mentioned also the 3 minute. I mean, look, I get pitched on LinkedIn with some strangers that ask me do you have 30 minutes so I can do a demo for our product to you? I'm like, you don't even know me, man. Like, 30 minutes? Are you kidding me? I can't give you 2. I don't have time. Even if I like your solution, like, what do you need 30 minutes for? Right? Like, but what is is that a magic number? Like, let's say you get invited, you already send them some materials. The initial part where you talk about the pain and make them resonate and help them to see how you can help them, is that 3 minutes, 5 minutes? Like, what is your suggestion in terms of the timing?
very simply, as quickly as possible. I think
Okay.
is just, I think that's a great example that you just gave. Even a few minutes of background that's not necessarily relevant for them, that's that's time lost. And everybody's in this situation where I just don't have time. And as soon as people see, yeah, this is a general message, not a targeted to me message, then their brains go somewhere else. They start picking up their phone or they'll be glancing at it and so on. People can't concentrate on anything that's not relevant for them at the moment. So I think, firstly, as quick as possible. Secondly, if you are going to have some kind of background, it needs to be about tuning into what they're interested in, tuning into what's happening in their world. Why am I telling this person anything about my background if it doesn't help them realize I might be able to help them? So if it's just, we started the company in 2015, and then I got together with my co-founder in 2016, and then we started developing. Yeah, they just want to know what's the problem. Well, what's the solution to my problem? Do you understand my problem? Can you give me a solution? So I think that's the best way to look at it. And yeah, people's attention span it's not 30 minutes. It's not sometimes not even 3 minutes. So I think, if you're asking for meetings, 15 minutes is a good. Have you got 10 minutes or 15 minutes for really a first meeting? I often ask for a quick check-in call. That seems to work pretty well. I think the 30 minutes, that used to be short, but it's long now. Yeah. I like your point. 30 minutes. You don't even know me. Why do you need 30 minutes? That's 30 minutes I'm never going to get back.
Yeah, and actually another thing to add here, like again from the movie, from my movie background, like you can
Yeah.
just, if you want to include some of these things, you can be smart and make it part of your narrative, right? Like
Mm.
you want to show that you worked with Samsung, right? Instead of saying I work with Samsung and I work with this, you can, once you present the point and the pains, you can say, for example, the way we solved that for Samsung
Yeah.
was da,
Yeah.
da, 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 but it's relevant for the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly that. Yeah. Like, I can give you a concrete example. It's a startup, but this I think is relevant for anybody in business. So there was a company I was asked to help, and I said to the guy, just tell me a bit about the business. Don't have to pitch it, but just talk to me. So he said, okay, and he did exactly what I described. We started the company in 2016, and it was me and a couple of friends, and well, actually they left in 2017. Anyway, so I got my first seed funding in 2017. To be honest, after 5 minutes, we were up to 2020. At a certain moment, I was trying to be polite. And at a certain moment, I said, I'm really sorry, Lars Eric. What is it that you're solving? What are you doing? And he said, oh, yeah, well, we make contracts 70% cheaper. Sorry? You make contracts 70% cheaper. Okay. There's lots of those, right? He said, yeah, millions are created every day. Okay. Do you make them faster as well? Yeah, 90% faster. Wow, this sounds like amazing. Have you got any customers? So yeah, we've got 1.5 million revenue already. Any companies that I might recognize? Yeah, Red Bull. And it gave me like a couple of others, AXA and another one I've heard of. So yeah, after 5 minutes, I had no idea that this guy had gold dust in the company. I think this is because any of us, we're so focused on what we're working on. Yeah, here's what I'm doing. If you're a startup, you're working day and night. If you're working in a company, you're just working on this product or this marketing campaign or this project, whatever it is you're working on. So we're stuck in the weeds of the stuff we're doing. Then we need to look up, get out of this stuff and get into their head and think, okay, which of these things are relevant for them? And as soon as you start doing that, you stop talking about here's what we're doing and start thinking about, okay, what do they need to be solved? And then how can we tell them that in a way that they will recognize themselves, believe that we can solve it, and we can get in a conversation about implementation rather than whether or not this is a good solution. Uh, so, you can hear the pitch of that company. It's very simply just the best stuff up front, contracts for lawyers and salespeople, HR professionals, you name it, 70% cheaper, 90% faster. Let me tell you how we're doing this for Red Bull in their HR department. Immediately straight into it. So I agree. Use the credibility factors to show how it's been done before. That's kind of showing the path that's been trodden, because people want a trodden path, but it also builds your credibility. You can bring those brands or experiences straight in. I also loved your idea. If it's something creative, show them the stuff as quickly as possible. That seeing rather than telling can work fantastically. So that depends on the situation, but the best stuff you've got right up front that's most relevant to them.
David, it's been already an hour, and I loved every second of it. Maybe it's time to kind of wrap up a little bit. And can you
Sure.
maybe, is there anything that you want to share connected to pitching to people listening, startup founders, business professionals, something that maybe like a final message to wrap up this whole episode?
Yeah, I think we underestimate how many different situations we're pitching in. And I hear sometimes people in companies that say, yeah, I don't really pitch. I might do presentations. But I would argue that anytime you're asking somebody to take a next step, anytime you're persuading people to give you resources, give you time to even just approve something, you're pitching to them. And again, people are busy, so they need your information in short snippets, short packages. So keep focused on the fact that anytime you're asking people to take a next step, you're pitching, and try to make it short. Bear in mind, everybody's got loads of things that they're working on, and they don't necessarily have time to focus on your stuff. So the quicker you can get the value of what you're doing in those multiple situations to new employees or to people you want to give a bit of time from another department, or indeed investors, the better your opportunities are going to be, the better chances that pitch will land and you'll get on to the next step.
Well, thank you so much, David. And final kind of a question: if you can maybe summarize once again the resources you mentioned, the books,
Sure.
your podcast, and where could people get in touch? How can you help organizations and startups?
Sure. So two places. First is best3minutes.com, my website. So best number 3 and minutes.com. And they can find everything there. There's my books. There's the pitch canvas for free there. There's various other resources. And LinkedIn is the best place to get hold of me as well. I'm posting regularly on LinkedIn, and you'll see all about what I'm doing there. And yeah, love to connect with anybody that's out there.
Thank you so much, and thanks everybody for listening, making it to the end of the episode 176, meaning there's 175 more episodes packed with value. Make sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, share this episode with a friend, and see you once again next week for another exciting episode of Productivity Mastery. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you very much, Stoyan.